As always, but for the first time ever in front of a live audience, Chat Show. Thank you. Thank you to the audience that's here at the Cobb's Comedy Club in San Francisco, the city of my birth, I'll have you know. I want to thank the folks at Children's Hospital so many years ago who made that birth happen. And to my mom for doing her part. You're not buffering.
Well, it works live. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought that bit works live?
Who would have thought that bit works live? Good point, Sammy. Certainly not me.
I'm waiting for a light to come down and just like set the whole stage on fire.
You're waiting for the catastrophe to begin? I was hoping it wouldn't happen in the first 90 seconds. We are 2 minutes into the show and already no one's on fire. So that's good. We are coming to you live, those of you watching at home and around the world, from the Cobb's Comedy Club in San Francisco, where Sketchfest, 10th anniversary, we slipped in right to celebrate the 10th anniversary. We're very excited that they would have us here and host us here, as well as the management at Cobb's Comedy Club. And we have our very first live audience for the Chat Show. Give yourselves a wonderful round of applause. I'm going to, at this point, take a moment, which I normally don't do because we're inside of a studio where we normally do the show in Sanity, and ask my director, Mike Rotman, if we are, in fact, online.
We are online.
Okay, great. That's good news. But
They're watching. I'm talking to them.
okay, good. They're already in the chat room talking. We have a great show, I would like to say, as I always think, lined up for today. But yeah, first of all, just a couple things about coming here to San Francisco for the show. It's always been a dream of mine to somehow, dream's a little too fine a point, odd thought. It's always been an odd thought of mine to someday do the Chat Show in front of a live audience. And I was experimenting with thoughts about how and why and when. And then this opportunity came up, so I want to thank Cole and everybody involved with Sketchfest for making this opportunity possible. Because then we just thought, well, let's just dive in, you know? Let's just jump in and get ourselves a fantastic guest and then invite people to come. And 6,000 showed up, which really surprised me.
Yeah.
Very odd, because the room holds 400.
Yeah, it's a real shame these aren't HD cameras, so they can see everyone in the way back.
I know,
the parking lot.
To the people up top in the balcony there, thank you so much for cramming in. They're like this, and it's really uncomfortable. And but I do want to thank everyone. We have a bar and a kitchen, so just keep eating and drinking. And yet, no booze for the crew. Oh. Yeah, right. Boo earns.
Boo earns, I say.
Boo earns. Sammy?
Yeah, buddy.
Let's start with you in terms of your own little personal history with the Sketchfest. Mm-hmm. You were here a couple of weeks ago with the Thrilling Adventure Hour.
I was here with the Thrilling Adventure Hour. This is my 6th Sketchfest. That's
Six.
right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, no, I love it. It's not a January, February unless I come up to San Francisco and see and do some funny comedy. Well, see mostly funny comedy, in mostly.
How did the Thrilling Adventure go?
It was great.
It's phenomenal, right?
We had I think two sold-out shows, and...
well, don't get cocky.
Well, I'm sorry. I just, no. We had Neil Patrick Harris on, who
Sure.
was fantastic, and so much fun. We did it at the Marines Memorial Theater, and...
Were there any Marines in the audience?
I'm sorry?
Were there any Marines in the audience?
I didn't get shot at, so no.
Interesting that's how you would test that. I was thinking Semper Fi or Hooah, something.
Oh, no, Pacino was there.
Oh, good.
Yeah. No, he was definitely in the room.
So you were yelled at?
I was yelled at.
Uh-huh.
Yes. He yells at everyone.
Yeah.
I need more water! I don't know why. He's always yelling now.
That was horrible. Now, listen.
You're not wrong.
So they had the Thrilling Adventure, and now this trip you brought up the lovely Eve.
I did.
Yeah.
I did bring up the
Where's
lovely
the
Eve.
lovely Eve?
Oh, it's just going to make her feel great. She's right there in the audience.
There's a lovely
my beautiful
Eve. Thank you,
girlfriend
darling.
right there.
We've never had her present in the studio.
This one's a keeper.
Yeah, this one's a keeper. Yeah, we're all very in favor of Eve. Except for the one crazy fan that's probably in the chat room now.
You be nice.
Sabrina's not there.
Well, thanks, Sam, for making the trip.
Hey, my
back.
pleasure.
And other than the hour stop, you drove here in 3.5 hours from Los Angeles. Is that
I think we
right?
made it in 2 hours and 21 minutes or something. Yeah. Just set the cruise at 250 miles an hour. And
We promise to transport you next time through the Goldblum transporting pod.
oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And Jamie,
What's up?
how are you, honey?
I'm doing all right. I got the chat room going.
You got the chat room going. We were very concerned. We literally arrived.
Martha's in Indonesia watching at 5 a.m.
Martha is Indonesian. Let's hear it for Martha _
That's Martha Washington, by the way. We also transcend time and space.
Yeah. She's been such a great friend and fan from day one.
She always has good questions.
And she's watching in Indonesia and always has great questions. We have a couple here today for our guest from Martha.
And I introduced her to Arby's.
And how was that when you introduced her to Arby's?
She never had it before, and then she got hooked on the horsey sauce. And she has to drive 30 minutes to get to the closest Arby's by her house, and she does it.
It sounded like you said she got hooked on horsey sauce.
Yep, she got hooked on the horsey sauce.
And you're going to take full responsibility for that.
Yes. I also, it was between Christmas and my birthday, which was last week, I have now about $85 in Arby's gift cards, which is probably going to take me about 3 years to get through, considering that I spend about $4 each time I go there. But so if anyone wants to go to Arby's.
Yeah. We're
me
taking
up.
the entire audience to Arby's after the show.
Is there even an Arby's here in San
I
Francisco?
don't know.
That's why I said that.
Good thinking.
That's why I invited them
That's good thinking.
to the Arby's, knowing that it was a 2-hour and 20-minute drive back down to Los Angeles in
Sorry.
the Levine Mobile. Well, thank you both for agreeing to be on stage. One of you, that's a difficult thing. So thank you in particular, Jamie. And do we have the Patton Oswalt vomit bag in case standing by?
I'm okay.
All right, so what else is happening? Well, Jamie and I got in a couple days early and went to one of the Sketchfest events with the SNL panel, Dan Aykroyd, Lorraine Newman, Don Novello, and Tom Davis. That was spectacular.
I think I was the only one in the audience that read his memoir.
Yeah, he talked about, Tom Davis talked about his book, which is called?
Oh, geez. It has one of those really long titles. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's like 35 years of short-term memory loss or something.
Yeah.
It's one of those really long titles.
And even Aykroyd said it's the only definitive book on SNL because it was written by someone who was there. He made a very proud point of that, as opposed to the big tome that was written that everyone thinks is the one. I guess a journalist wrote that one, and Aykroyd was kind of going off saying, yeah, that book's great, but this one was written by the guy who was at the epicenter in Tom Davis. So that was a phenomenal thing. I also highly recommend for anyone who lives here or visits San Francisco, something Jamie and I ended up spending about 3 hours at, which is the Walt Disney Family Museum in the Presidio. Oh my God.
It's nice.
It is unbelievable. I mean,
It's just really well done.
I don't even know why it's in San Francisco, because he spent his whole life in adulthood in Los Angeles, thereabouts. Maybe someone can correct me or write into the chat room any sort of explanation as to how it landed in San Francisco. I'm thrilled, of course, as a native son, take great pride in that. All the Academy Awards. It's one of the most thorough, it's 10 rooms, it seems like. It's just ridiculous. Everything, an amazing collection of a man or woman's work, life that I've ever seen. And we've been to the Warhol Museum. It's just ridiculous. So I encourage everyone here and anyone who might be visiting to check that out. It really is
Unless you have no soul and you hate Disney.
shockingly great. Unless you're Ben Acker and you have no soul and
And you
hate
hate
everything
Disney.
Disney. No, over the years, originally the idea of the show was to do sort of in terms of everyone asking, how are you going to monetize, how are you going to monetize, how are you going to monetize? Every now and then we'll get a sponsor who steps up. The original thought was 1950s TV. That's how we're brought to you by. But we've yet to ever find that big sponsor who says we're happy to take tremendous pride week after week sponsoring the show. We've been to every large corporation in the known universe, and they've all said, go fuck yourself. which I found off-putting, not going to lie. But recently, we did, through the sales staff for thisweekend.com, the mentorship network that Kevin Pollak's chat show is proud to be a part of. Leveda over there was contacted and back and forth with one particular wonderful entity that puts out the fabulous Bowflex machine. Yeah, and they said, if you wouldn't mind, actually getting onto the Bowflex and working out a little bit, as you know, to show what it looks like when a Jew is on a machine like that, we would be happy to sponsor the show for a handful of weeks. And I said, oh, would you? That's ridiculous. I can't get on a machine. So for those of you watching on the interwebs, we're going to show you a little ad we put together for the Bowflex folk. And for those of you here in the theater, you'll watch on the, oh, no. Why, there's no screen there at all. But for those of you at home, I do want to thank the fine folks at Bowflex for sponsoring this particular edition of the show. Check out the lower third on your screen for all the vital, important data as a way to order up yourselves your own machine from the fine folks at Bowflex.
Kevin,
yes.
I just got an email from another corporation we had not heard from yet, Masturbators Are Us. And no, they said go fuck yourself.
No, they did.
They said go fuck yourself as well. Which I think it's just the tag on the bottom of their emails. It may not be. Maybe something else.
There are two things I love about that, Sam.
He wrote bits for this.
I did not. It's a blank screen. It's a blank screen. It's no bit.
He's writing bits.
Sammy worked with 3 writers on that.
I did.
He hit up Tom Davis the other night. I saw him.
Yeah.
He was in town.
He was in town. You're not going to hit him up?
Come on.
2 things I love about that you got laughs in front of the live audience, and that the fine folks at Bowflex had to listen to that bit.
I think in the end they're going to be happy.
As they're paying for this ad.
I think they're going to be happy in the end.
All right, let's roll the ad. How are you? I'm here to tell you about Bowflex Tread Climber. Oh, this is exciting stuff. The machine is called the Bowflex Tread Climber. The Tread Climber combines the motions of a treadmill, a stepper, and an elliptical into one beautiful machine. It's 3 workouts in one fluid motion. You can't touch it, folks. All you have to do to lose weight is walk. That's it. Wow, walk. Bowflex recommends just 30 minutes 3 times a week. That's it. Ooh, how great is this? Bowflex did a study at Adelphi University that showed the TRC can burn up to 40% more calories than a stepper, can burn up to 2 times the calories of a treadmill. Wow! These are 2 ways to request the treadmill info kit. There are 2 different ways. Call Bowflex at 1-800-436-6063. I'm going to hit you with that number again. Watch this. 1-800-436-6063. Wow. Request one online if you wish. www.walkwithkevin.com. Easy enough. It's easy peasy. So, what's in the info kit, you ask? I hear you. The full-color glossy brochure that describes the Tread Climber's unique motion 3-in-1 design, available models, financing offers, etc. Also, a free DVD so you can see it in motion and learn more about the machine. And finally, bonus. Ooh, bonus. We love bonuses. The Bowflex Insider's Guide, which includes a free fitness assessment, 6 weight loss secrets anyone can use to start losing weight today. Forget yesterday. We're talking about today. Info on nutrition, superfoods, and more. Hey, did I mention it was free? Enjoy your Bowflex Tread Climber today. About 42 minutes from now, we'll bring out my guest, who's very patiently sitting backstage. A big part of the show to include our audience at home and around the world is to a little portion of the show we like to call Ask Kevin. They're running the graphic right now that you can't see either. You're on. Hi. This from Buying the Chat Show comes to us from dside_UK. Hi, Kevin. Could you possibly put on the site or here in the forum some explanation of how to get the chat show legally now that it is in a paying mode? I am willing to pay to get the show as it is my favorite. Favorite is spelled in the King's English. Show on the net with a great format, great guests, great hosts. Enough ass kissing already. As far as I can see, the only way for us non-USA residents to catch the show now is to watch it live. Yes, you should be watching it live. Generally between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the UK. Oh. The iTunes, at least in UK, only holds teasers, and Amazon Video on Demand only works to US residents and is now not fully up to date yet. Anyway, YouTube was a great for catch-up, but obviously that was free as well. Cheers, dside_UK. Yes, we are working out the kinks of the new model in archives of the show to include the UK and there beyond. So thank you very much for your concern and your continued support of the show. We are not ignoring nor forgetting. It just takes a wee bit longer than, that was horrible, a bit longer than we had hoped. And the straight up answer is we're not ready. We never were, we're still not. And I will be making announcements on Twitter, which remains international, as to the updates and when everything will be available for iTunes. This was a big surprise to me and an unfortunate one that it was iTunes USA only. And we are, I promise you, busting ass to correct this situation. So thank you very much for your support of the show. Tracy Brunette writes, kudos, Kevin, for the last week's show. I have just finished listening to the show after the fact, and just have to tell you, I could not have been more entertained. Winnie and Paul, that'd be Winnie Holzman and Paul Dooley, two of the sweetest people you've ever had on the show so far. Well, wait to see today's. I could have listened to their stories for another hour. No, you couldn't. I am curious to know who puts together the guest list. Do you have group meetings? Do you call in a favor? Do you have a dartboard and a chance, or just take a chance to see whatever is working? I think this last show was one of the best, and it sure will be one of the top download shows on the list. Thanks so much for your show, and get out of my face. Tracy Brunette. Seems like Tracy Burnett should be your name. Tracy Brunette makes no sense at all. In terms of who books the show, this is show 99, and I have yet to speak with a manager, agent, or publicist. I reach out personally on a weekly basis. I've had help from Sammy on a few occasions. Most of them came through. No reason to name names.
Dare you? I'm going to make good on that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a point of pride with the show that I for the most part, book it myself, and people have been. I exhausted my own iPhone contact list rather quickly, long before we got to 39, let alone 99. So it has been an interesting thing. Once you get a certain level of guests, it turns out that others are more inclined, and the response so far has been pretty fantastic, as you'll see from the list of guests in archives. Today being no exception. You know, we sort of had some help reaching out to today's guests as well as guests in the past, and then it becomes eventually a direct contact, and that's pretty much how it's done. People are constantly making guest suggestions, and we appreciate that, although we're rarely able to do anything about it. But the calendar is up on the site, kevinpollakshow.com, if you want to just go there to see who the future guests are. And that is ever changing. We do have some great shows. Nathan Fillion will be our 100th show next Sunday, back in our live time slot at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
And some other great ones coming up, so check. I'm excited for the Lauren Graham, I'm not going to lie.
Who wouldn't be?
Yeah, last Sunday in February. And this last Ask Kevin is from Jonathan D. Lim, because that's a name. As a wannabe cartoonist animator, I love that you got Seth MacFarlane on the show. Are there any plans for having another animator on the show at some point in the future? Absolutely not. They stink. No, he was phenomenal. We found out he liked Jack Daniels. We had a bottle waiting, and thankfully he drank for 2 hours. I highly recommend that particular episode of the show. Why, it's hilarious. I can, I guess, put it off no further than to introduce our guest.
I think he left.
Yeah, he might have left. Would someone check to make sure that... I, like so many of you, and that includes those of you watching around the world, became a fan. First on Robot Wars, which we'll talk about, and then ultimately on MythBusters. Normally, my guest is seated here off camera, wildly uncomfortable during the opening 20 minutes. But because this was a stage and a live thing, we thought we'd have him in the wings, and I just realized the poor man's been on his feet for the last hour and a half, waiting for me to introduce him. So without any further delay, please welcome Adam Savage! All right. Thank you, sir. Oh, perfect. That'd be yours. Normally, thank you so much for coming. First and foremost, it means a great deal to me that you were able to make it. I know you live in these here parts.
I do.
Wouldn't mind if you could give out the exact address now. But I was so excited, I think I wet the table. So let me just do that.
No, it's a testament to Twitter.
Yes.
That I was Googling myself on Twitter.
I'm sorry. Can you do that?
No, I got some email that said 7 celebrities have tweeted about you this week, and I thought, oh, I wonder who they are. And the first one that came up was Kevin Pollak agreed with the fan that you should come on his talk show. And I agreed with that too. And then it turned out you were going to be here, so we just drove across town.
Yeah, thankfully you agreed with that crazy notion. Welcome, first and foremost, to our first live in front of an audience show. As you stood in the wings, lo, these last far too many minutes. Well, what was the feeling backstage as things were going on? I ought to get a right up to the minute review.
For me, I have an admission to make.
Please.
I have a congenital condition that makes me incredibly hard of hearing.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a slight ear infection right now, which means all I heard backstage was Peanuts teachers talking. I heard and I clapped when everyone clapped, like a seal. Just to make this, sound fully, 3D. But I couldn't hear a gosh darn thing.
Perfect. You probably got the best portion of the show. Certainly the best version. This has nothing to do with things blowing up nearby?
It does not. No. Everyone thinks, oh, yeah, of course you're hard of hearing. No, I have a thing where my eustachian tubes don't work, and so...
Those bastards.
When I was a kid, I liked this negative pressure in my head, and what that meant was I turned my eardrums into balloons that filled my ear cavities and rotted.
Wow.
So I have a new eardrum in here and titanium ear bones. They actually cut my ear off my head, went to work inside there, put it back.
Holy shit.
Yeah. The sad part is that I realized recently I can now only wiggle the unoperated on ear.
Aww, that stinks.
I've been asking to fix that next time I go under the knife.
Yeah. Would you mind taking my ear off again so that I can wiggle it?
Please take a tendon from my foot and put it in the back of my head. Still, yeah. So it's a slow burning condition, but I have to get it taken care of, and it means that the operation doesn't actually fix your hearing, it just stops the infection from giving you facial paralysis and other terrible things.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes. I don't want to end up like the guy in the Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
Oh, sure you do. Wow. None of the research that we did talked about most of this at all. Yeah.
There is a small contingent of hearing aid wearers and people who suffer from this condition that know about it. There's actually been screenshots blown up of me on MythBusters where you can see my hearing aid behind my ear.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because they want solidarity and
exactly.
sense of pride.
Exactly.
Look, he's like us. I'm sorry, what?
Too soon, Kevin. Too soon.
Too soon?
Too soon.
Yeah.
He just finished telling you.
All right, so let's back it up just a wee bit then, and to the childhood. The research suggests that you were building toys at a very young age. What the hell?
My father was a painter.
I'll say.
House paint. No. When I was a kid, I was sitting in school, and I was in detention, and I was looking across the street, and I noticed there was this auto garage from the turn of the century in my hometown, and I recognized it, that my father had painted a painting of it.
Wow.
And I was like, oh. And this kid next to me said, what? And I said, my father painted that building. And he goes, oh yeah, it was painted recently. And I thought, how does he know? And then I realized. My father was a painter, and so he had a studio in the back of our house and always had lots of materials to play with, and I was encouraged to play with those materials. So from a very early age, I had masking tape and single-edged razor blades, and my father was an animator, so I always had clear acetate, which was really good for making visors of space helmets.
Yeah.
And drawing. So the first thing I remember making is taking a briefcase I bought at a garage sale and putting down a sheet of cardboard and making some cutout windows and buying switches at the hardware store and putting switches and lights in it. So it was like James Bond's Mission Impossible. Open it up, click a button, something blows up somewhere in my mind.
That was one of the first?
That was one of the first. And it was probably from age 10 on, I had the ability to go charge things at the hardware store on my dad's account. And amazingly, I never abused it, nor did I set anything on fire.
Yeah, I'm not believing the never on fire thing.
By accident.
Only by accident?
Oh, I never set anything on fire by accident.
Oh, I see. Or
I was
failure.
very controlled about my fire experiment.
I was thinking failure was the reason that you hadn't indeed succeeded at setting something on fire.
Exactly.
And so do you recall any of the other toys that you actually built that you could have, were you showing your friends? Was this a matter of...
No, it was more extending my play. My parents weren't very well off when I was a kid, so we didn't I remember having the experience of wanting a toy and being astonished that I got it for Christmas. Wow. And that was so my parents were really tight, and I remember being 7 years old, and my dad said, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, I wanted a race car for my bear Gus, my teddy bear. And my dad fiberglassed this insane race car in his studio for me for Christmas.
Oh, wow.
It's one I could sit in at the time, but only for a very short time. It was about this long, and it was painted in white, and he did it all with polyester, which is just noxious, makes you vomit, it's awful stuff. But it was this point in which I realized, oh, you can make stuff that you want.
Holy shit.
He totally made this possible. So it was more extending my play. I would find a piece of styrofoam that was used to pack a VCR or something earlier than a VCR because it was the mid-'70s. And I would put toilet paper tubes and take all my Star Wars figures and turn it into a Death Star set.
Wow.
And then because of the Legos, I had lots of different things to extend the Lego play.
Yeah. A little unfair to those with a real Lego set around town.
Well, it was more like, really the problem with Legos is topography. Like, you can build all the buildings in the world, but you need lots of topography to lay out a full city in your room.
I'll say.
And, I had cities and I had spaceports, and right up until I was 15.
Were you, wow. So, like most kids will play in a situation like that, a fictitious world of their own creation, or imaginary. Were you doing voices and characters and things? It's one thing to build it, but to inhabit it.
Yeah, I don't remember if I was doing... What I remember significantly about that time was just years and years and years of being alone in my room listening to Casey Kasem narrate the top 40 on Saturdays.
Hey, this one's going out to you, Adam.
Exactly. So all these songs from the 70s remind me of working with Legos and playing with things in my room.
Oh, wow.
And I guess myself, too.
The soundtrack of your life, yes.
Yeah, so to me, I don't remember actually investing these guys with voices, although I did have, adventures, and one of the things I was most obsessed about in Legos was I would build a room, but I always wanted secret doors. So I had secret doors that went, was that like the opening of Get Smart?
Nice.
I wanted things, everything, irises, whatever it was, I wanted secret doors everywhere. I built a secret door in my old house that behind a bookcase, my office was behind a bookcase in the garage.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man, that must have been fun.
It was great right up until I visited Guillermo del Toro's house, and then he's got a whole wing behind a bookcase.
It's not a competition, Adam. Wait, yes it is.
I desire that. I want a whole wing behind a bookcase.
Yeah. Wow. So the crafty thing goes way beyond the toys into adulthood, of course. Did you study architecture, or did you find any desire?
I actually,
Because you seem so self-taught as a kid.
I excelled in art in school and in high school, so I took all the art electives I could, and I really got into acting. I was a child actor. I played Mr. Whipple's Stockboy in a Charmin commercial.
You certainly did.
Did a bunch of radio voiceovers, and
let's not leave out Drowning Teen in Billy Joel's 1985 music video. You're only human.
Yeah.
Did you audition for Drowning Teen?
I did. I auditioned for that part against my best friend.
He couldn't drown just right?
I think he was too attractive.
Let's bring him out now.
He actually lives here in San Francisco.
Damn it.
That is Billy Joel's worst music video, and it's a high bar.
I'm glad you said it.
It is so bad that when I showed it to my wife, she didn't know about it for the first 3 or 4 years we were together. And she said, "Really? You're in a Billy Joel music video?" Search for it on YouTube, and I called it up, and we started watching. I'm in the very beginning of it, or in the first minute.
Right.
And after my drowning scene, I'm in the graveyard scene, and I'm in the graduation scene. But after the drowning scene, my wife goes, "Is there any more to this? Because I don't think I can take 2 more minutes." Are you in any more? Because I'll watch it if you are.
Sammy. By worst music video, do you mean best?
No. I mean, just the most unwatchable.
It's so fantastically amazing. For those people watching, streaming this later, I implore you to pause this, go watch it on YouTube, and come back to this.
It is.
Because I'm now going to talk about it. It's a Wonderful Life in like 2.5 minutes.
Yes, yeah. It's
with Billy Joel
Showgirls
playing
bad.
the Clarence part.
Yeah.
But he's cool Billy Joel in the long overcoat and everything. It's such an amazingly awful video. It goes back around to awesome.
Yeah, no, I guess you're right.
It's like Free Jack.
What's that?
Free Jack.
It's like
Oh, yeah,
Jack.
Free Jack,
Mick Jagger
absolutely.
movie.
Welcome to my mind.
That's right. My apologies.
I like every square inch of that, Sammy, except for the part where you told people to stop watching this.
I said pause. Do not turn to another channel.
Pause.
Pause.
How do they pause the live streaming?
You can hit pause on the live stream.
Can you?
Can't
No. Mike, our director, is saying, "You idiot."
you? All right. 2 windows. I don't know.
At anywho,
So I did not study sculpture or making things. I spent 6 months at NYU studying acting.
right.
I was terrible at it. I was a really arrogant little shit.
But you kind of said to your parents you wanted to do this. And I found that interesting in the dossier there, that the folks said, "All right, well, let's give this a try."
They have always supported me doing anything that I wanted to do. And that
Clearly,
was-
if they gave you the account at 10 to charge whatever you wanted.
It was a remarkable thing. My father was I had an example in him of somebody who did only what he wanted to do. He
Right.
started out in advertising in New York, did a lot of commercials in the 60s, got out of advertising because he couldn't stand the whole industry, and raised us doing about 2 or 3 animated spots per year for Sesame Street.
Wow.
He would go to Children's Television Workshop every year and pitch them about a dozen ideas of animated things, and they would always buy 2 or 3, and that was enough to pay the mortgage for the year.
Wow.
And then he would animate them, ink them, paint them, and film them all in his studio behind our house for about 3 months, and then the other 9 months of the year he'd paint.
What an amazing example to set.
It
Seriously.
was truly remarkable. So, I had, because of him, I had every job I ever had for either a year or an hour. If people were schmucks, I'd just say, "I'm going to go get a soda," and I would not go back.
And it was always a soda.
I specifically did that. You know that poster store on 4th Street in New York, just south of Washington Square Park, that like
poster store next to the Bottom Line?
I'm going to lie and say yes.
Okay. There's this poster shop, and I remember working there, and I spent one day there, and they're like, "You're the new guy, huh? Well, let's see how long you last." And I was like, "No, that's all I need."
That was it.
That was it. Yeah, so
You started auditioning, you were 19 years old, I think?
I started auditioning for stuff when I was 16, actually, and then I stopped when I was 19.
Oh, I see.
Because I got into I was totally all over the place. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had some talent. I knew I was smart, but I had no ambition.
Yeah, that's a tough combination.
And it's New York is a terrible place to be for that. San Francisco is the ultimate place to be.
It is. You're not allowed to have ambition here.
No, actually, the thing was that San Francisco allowed me to try everything. So
yes.
I got here, I got into carpentry, I got into prop making, rigging, electronics. I worked for a robot sculptor, and that's kind of where I went to school. I actually got hired as a carpenter, and they said, "Okay, we need you to build these stairs." And I built stairs like from here to the roof of this stage, these big stairs, and they were like, "Great!" And I was thinking, doesn't anyone want to check my work? I've never built stairs before. I just looked at the other ones and copied those. 3 weeks later, I was the master carpenter.
What outfit was this?
This was a
Larry's House of
No,
Wood?
no. Some of you in the audience may remember this was George Coates Performance Works, which was a multimedia, really sort of anti-audience extravaganza happening down at the Hastings Law School at the McAllister and Market.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
That's
so
fantastic.
I ended up doing all these different things for sculptors and theaters, and I got a reputation for being able to solve. My thing was mechanical problem solving. I really got into that.
Right.
I had started by, when I was 16 or 17, building all those buildings out of paper books. I don't know if you remember the Alan Rose series.
Yeah, that's...
The World at Your Feet. So I built the Taj Mahal and the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building and the Brooklyn Bridge. And it's a beautiful education building buildings out of paper because...
For those of you who aren't familiar, if you could describe exactly what the hell this thing was, because I do remember this from my youth.
It was amazing. It was a little paperback book you bought in magazine format, and it had a building. It had stuff that you cut out of it. It wasn't even die cut. You didn't snap it out. You had to actually physically cut every piece out, and then you had to score every angle and then glue it all together with Elmer's glue. And eventually, after probably 30 or 40 hours of hard work, you ended up with this, tilting building.
Yeah.
And so they were very rewarding to make, very difficult. No one would sell them now because no one would buy them now.
Right.
But when you build stuff like that, you start to learn about how shapes are made, and it actually turns out, I have a whole book in my head I want to write one day, that sewing and welding and carpentry are all the same thing. Once you understand, they're all planar forms meeting each other, and you just have to understand the rules by which they can meet, if the material's soft or hard or flexible or elastic. And so learning to build buildings like that allowed me to sort of picture things in a way that made me a very good problem solver, and that caught the attention of my partner on the show, Jamie Heineman, in 1992. And he called me and asked me to come in, and I showed him some stuff, and he hired me to work on a Nike commercial.
Now, how is it that he came to, became on his radar, as it were?
The theater community in San Francisco was actually an incredible, vibrant place in the early 90s. There was something like 10 different black box theaters in San Francisco here. So there was lots of opportunity, and the community was very small, so people moved from place to place. You kind of knew everybody. And the film industry would reach into the theater industry occasionally for people to help do stuff. And this was 92, so Nightmare Before Christmas was going on. And it was sucking up all of the good talent for making things in San Francisco.
Really?
And because of that, Jamie had to hire something like 25 people to build all these vegetables for a Nabisco commercial, these dancing vegetables.
Who else would he go to?
Well, so he started calling up a bunch of theaters, and they sent over their prop makers for this long weekend, and 2 of them kept on telling him, "You got to call this guy we know, Adam Savage. You got to call this guy." And so Jamie called me up, and I was working at the Berkeley Repertory Theater on Woman Warrior. I was making a pair of robotic chairs, remote control lazy boy chairs. And so he called up and he said, and I had tried to work in the film industry a couple of other times in commercial special effects, and in each case, the place where I was hired was such a crappy place, I didn't last more than a couple of weeks. So Jamie called me up and he said, "Oh, I've heard about you.
Wow,
We're going to need a little
Bill
bit
from
more of
Silence
that,
of the
actually.
I would love to, you could come in and show me some of your stuff." And I was thinking, this is the call. This is the call I've been waiting for. And I'm amazed that I get to actually say this. I can't come in this week. I'm building remote control lazy boy chairs. But I can come in 2 weeks. So I came in, and for some reason, I didn't go in with a portfolio. I came in with a suitcase full of things I'd built.
Really?
Yeah.
How big is the suitcase?
But no, I just decided to take a whole bunch of really good things that showed that I had
Right.
a bunch of skills. I later on realized how fantastic this was as an interview technique, because
Right.
people think special effects is a very creative business, and they think that they should come in and show you their sculpture. And sculpture doesn't show me as a supervisor anything about your skills at making things.
Oh, that makes
Show me that you could make this out of wood, and I'd hire you in a second.
Right.
It's about replicating stuff, and it's often insanely tedious.
Yeah.
So I came in with these mechanical things, a hand that I made out of copper that was remote control, and some little doodads. And it actually
I love how
was-
you just throw away the handmade of copper.
I still have it. I still have it. It hangs in my
You
studio.
mean like thing? Like
Yeah, well, it's sheet copper. You know what it was is I had a roommate at the time who made this hand, and I thought the mechanics were really lazy and sloppy, and I wanted to show him how it was done. So I made all these lovely little wrapped copper hinges with pins and showed him, and he didn't care. So I
it could
showed
have
this
been the, hey, idiot, look at this attitude.
Yeah,
that,
maybe,
turned
maybe.
him off to
Yeah,
your work.
that's
You
true.
literally decided to build a better.
Yeah. If I see something in my head and I see a poor execution of it, I want to make a better execution.
And you insist that you lack ambition.
Well, I didn't have a specific ambition. I had it's funny, my best friend in New York when I was like 19, he said it to me exactly like that. He said, your problem is you have talent, but you don't have ambition. If you had ambition, you wouldn't be here in my guest bedroom. You'd be saying, I'm sorry, Mr. Lucas, I can't build that by Tuesday.
Right. Nice.
So, cut to 16 years later, I actually got to say, I'm sorry, Mr. Lucas, I can't build that by Tuesday.
Yes, you did.
And I called him right up and I was like, get this! It took a while. So I went in and I started telling Jamie about these, we were talking about the mechanical problem solving, and Arachnophobia had come out a few years before, and Chris Wallace, who ran the company that built all the spiders, had gone on Johnny Carson with one of the spiders, and he had made the spider walk by turning this crank. And I had seen that and understood that the crank was operating a set of lever shafts on cam arms that activated the legs in a proper sequence to make the spider walk. And I told Jamie this whole story about how I saw this, and Jamie waited for me to finish before telling me that he'd actually designed and built
Oh God.
that organ grinder box. It was a perfect storm.
Oh my God. That really is truly a perfect storm.
He hired me, and I finally discovered something that I was really good at, that was a career. I had been doing sculpture really seriously for a few years, but in special effects, all of these things I had been playing with came to fore, and I started using them all on this, at work, something I'd never done. And Jamie was really good enough to see that I was ambitious there, and when I said, if you're going to hire someone to build that, I'll learn how to use the lathe in order to build that. And I'll stay late, and I'll just do it. And often that was faster than finding someone and hiring them and bringing them in that knew how to use that tool. So I just kept on going tool by tool by tool by tool in his shop until I could no longer stand him as a supervisor. And then I moved on.
Literally.
Yeah. I stopped working for him somewhere in the mid-'90s, and I went to work for a toy company, a startup toy company.
Really?
Yeah. When you're freelancing, so I did some commercial special effects out
Well, I
of my
didn't know
own
that you
shop.
had stayed with him for that long.
For about 5 years.
Because that's well, I guess chronologically. All right, so let's jump around a little bit, because you mentioned the 16-year later crumb, and I would rather feast and dine on that because we discovered briefly how much of a personal moment that was and how it had been foretold.
Yeah.
But as someone who had taught themselves and continued to learn from others, but continued to force themselves to learn new ways of invention, to get to a place where you are dealing with a George Lucas. I'm very, very curious about that introduction and about that working relationship.
Well, so spending 5 years working with Jamie in commercials was fantastic, because commercial special effects is very different than film special effects. You've got to do something in a day, in 2 days. The budgets are tiny, the challenges are really difficult. 5 years of that was a tremendous education. Then I went to work for this toy company as the head of R&D. It was a startup toy company. It was very poorly run. It was an exhausting and stressful process. I didn't build anything for 6 months, which actually almost crippled me. I discovered halfway through my year at this toy company that I had to build with the toy for an hour every day. And I said, after lunch, for an hour every day, I go downstairs and I build, because this is what I do. I have to do it. I recognize it was a part of my process.
Right.
And then I matured in that job enough to know that I did not want that job.
We're shocked by that, aren't we?
I found my replacement, and I decided I wanted to work at ILM, at Industrial Light and Magic. And so I had several friends working there. They were in the middle of episode 1, Star Wars episode 1, so they were hiring all over the place. And I've checked back on this, because I keep thinking it's become apocryphal, but it is true. I think I called almost every week for about 4 months until they hired me. And it turned out that the supervisor at the time had mistaken me for someone else that he didn't like, which is why he wasn't returning my calls. But because I kept on calling, he brought me in on this job. And
4 months.
About 4 months, yeah. He called, it was like a Friday, and it was 7 in the morning. He was like, "You better get up, man." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "It's Mark Anderson from ILM. You're coming in on Monday at 8 a.m., all right?" I was like, "Yeah."
Now let's stop for a moment and imagine that 4-month journey of not giving up, of not taking no for an answer, of having the faith and keeping the faith to the point of, I don't know how long it's going to take, because there's the couple of week journey, there's the couple of month journey, and then for a lot of people it's even maybe someone in your life saying, "Dude, it's not going to happen. Let it go."
Yeah,
what part of you
it really seemed
believes
to
if I
me-
just keep hammering this guy, I'll beat him down?
It felt inevitable. It really felt inevitable in a couple of ways. One is that I had 3 or 4 really good friends working up there who had gotten hired up there recently, so I knew that they were bringing in fresh blood.
So you must have asked them, and they must have said, "I don't know what his problem is. Just keep trying."
Actually, it's finally one of them went to him and held my resume up in front of him, and this is what made him finally call.
Nice.
She said, "He's been calling you for 4 months." He's like, "I know, I don't like that guy." She's like, "You've got him mistaken. He's another guy. Call him."
How did she?
I don't know
Wow.
exactly how that worked, but they had talked a little bit about it, and she
Nice.
had corrected his
Nice.
his misassumption.
So he gives you the call at 7 o'clock in the morning. Get your ass in here on Monday.
Yeah, and you know, I'm one of these people who's obsessively on time. You know, your director said I'd prefer if you showed up at 1:15. I think I walked in at 1:16.
Yeah, you did. We
My
were
first
wondering what happened.
my first day at ILM, I got a flat tire, and I got lost, and I was still 5 minutes early.
Nice. Flat tire. Now, for most people, that's potentially a half hour. I would have liked to have seen the pit stop that you pulled off.
No, I managed to get I pulled off the freeway, realized that I was like rolling on the rim, and I was right in front of a garage, and I ran in and got Fix-A-Flat and came out and pumped up my tire.
Of course you were right in front of a
And then
garage.
I said, I had heard somebody had said, "Oh, well, ILM is right behind the Best Buy in San Rafael." And I was like, "Where's Best Buy?" And they were like, "It's that way," which was great that he said that, because I thought it was that way.
Wow.
So I would have wasted more time, and I pulled up. And it happened, and I didn't realize this at the time, but if I
you were
got
MacGyver?
hired, what's that?
You didn't realize that you were MacGyver at this point?
No, I didn't. I didn't know this at the time, but when I finally got there, I was fully qualified to be there. If I'd gotten hired any earlier, even before the toy company, I would not have had the sort of the right set of skills in
Yes.
dealing with people and in making things and in seeing what I wanted. And getting there in the middle of a big film when 150 people were working in the model shop was the ideal time, because nobody was fighting for their dominion.
Right.
Nobody, the union, when everyone's working in the union, everybody's happy and no one's gonna, piss on your tree.
Sure.
So I was able to sort of look around and say, who do I need to know to build spaceships? Well, you got to know John Goodson and John Duncan. They're the best spaceship makers. They're both still great friends of mine.
Wow.
Larry Tan, who's one of the original model makers on Jedi and Empire, I worked with him on a spaceship, and he kind of walked me through the characters in the shop. And it got early on a reputation for being really, really fast, and that's from commercials.
Right. You had no choice.
In film, you often specialize immediately, and people who do one thing, they do that really well, but that's all they do.
Right.
And in film special effects, it's the same thing. There's the guy who does the mold making, there's the guy who does the electronics, and because I've done commercials, I do all of that. And so I often got the jobs that were the really tight time constraint jobs that needed to be built, electronically wired, and painted, and rigged on set, all within a couple of days. Which is my favorite kind of stuff to do.
It must be. I'm sensing that, not just OCD, but I'm sensing that there is a wonderful curiosity that fuels a great deal of your efforts professionally. That you are fascinated by all of this. That you were able to learn from your dad that if you want to, you could not only sort of create and build your own destiny, you can do it at your time, your pace, your hours, but I imagine you must have also found in that inspiration, because a lot of times I'm curious about how you got from there to here, those mentors, those moments of inspiration, who were you studying when actors or comedians sit here? I'm sensing in your dad so much of this was there. I'm wondering at what age were you able to kind of put it in perspective like I'm trying to do now, which is to look back and go, wait a second, I got all these tools from this incredible example that was being set.
I always knew that there was an example being set.
You did?
Yeah, I worshiped my dad from like 11 on.
But that you're aware of it? Because
I always knew that he was this kind of godhead to achieve, right? He had this tremendous amount of success in his early life. He had his first one-man show of paintings in New York in the late 50s, and the Hirshhorn and the Whitney bought 3/4 of the show. He got written about in '62. PBS did a documentary chronicling like a dozen young American artists, and it was Motherwell and Warhol and Lichtenstein and the abstract expressionists, and my father was among them.
Holy shit.
At the same time, he was selling so well. I don't know why I'm getting chills telling this, but he was selling so well. He said at a certain point he was painting money, and his work was selling sight unseen, and he was making a shitload of money in advertising and painting, and none of it meant anything to him. So he stopped showing. He applied for a Guggenheim Fellowship, which he got. Famous family story, which turns out to be true because I recently got a copy of the application. He says, I paint for the same reason I splash in the bathtub.
Wow. Okay, so the inspiration and the mentorship actually goes considerably deeper than I had started to gather.
What I was going to say was I had always admired him and revered him, and it took me a while to actually extricate myself from that admiration to see. I was astonished. I came out here to San Francisco to stay with my brother, and my brother's like, our dad's totally full of shit. And I was like, what? No, he's not. No, he was. We're all full of shit. Really, I am at least.
No, we all are.
It took a while for me to realize what opinions were mine and what opinions were his. It's funny, I've got twin 11-year-old boys, and one of them's just solidly in the worship phase. And, we'll come out of Tron, and they'll go, what did you think? I really liked it. And I'll be like, and they'll say, you didn't like it? And I'll say, the script was horrible to a point of almost torture. And they'll go, yeah, it wasn't really that great. And I'll go, no, you can like it. You're totally okay to like it. It was enjoyable for somebody somewhere. It might as well be you.
Yeah. Certainly for an 11-year-old.
So I'm always thinking in that frame. It took me a long time to extricate my opinions from my father's opinions and realize the ways in which we see the world differently and realize the ways I can do things differently. He died in 1998, and in a way, I'm very sad he hasn't seen any of the success I've had with the show, because I think he'd love how different it is than anything he would have envisioned or that I ever envisioned.
Sure.
It's lovely how I thought I was going to be a sculptor at first. I thought I wanted to be a director. I wanted to do these things that he had done, and it's really nice how much it's diverged. Mm-hmm. It took a while.
Yeah, it certainly did. And it seems like when you cross that bridge of your own thoughts and your own destiny, things actually started to happen.
You know, there was this point at which I first got into special effects. I'd been in it for about a year, and I noticed that I wasn't doing as much sculpture, which was super important to me for about 8 years. I was doing all these different sculptures and art, and I was showing in San Francisco in all these galleries. And there I was doing special effects. I was excelling at it. I was doing really well. I was working all the time, and I wasn't doing a lot of sculpture. And I thought, okay, so I know this about myself. I can only focus on one thing at a time. Early on, when I was doing a lot of sculpture, for about 3 years, I became obsessed with playing pool. And the more I played pool, the less I did sculpture. So I understood this about my brain. It focuses on one thing at a time. And I thought, are you going to focus this on this career instead of this art? Right? So, because your father would have chosen the art. And I thought, right now, I'm having so much fun in this career. I'm going to let this focus shift happen. And I'm not going to say I used to be a sculptor. I'm not going to say, because special effects is full of those people.
Sure.
I used to do great art. No. There's something absolutely, a direct line in terms of the creative output. If you find that thing that's fulfilling, it doesn't matter whether someone calls it art or not. It's what it is. To do anything really excellently, you have to go into yourself. And it doesn't matter whether that product has some merit even, as long as you're going deeper into yourself to make that thing better. And I was watching this happen with effects. And I think that was the point at which the real divergence happened.
Right. Yeah, you started to realize, well, first of all, listening to your own calling as opposed to questioning where you belonged. I want to allow the audience from the interwebs a chance to get in here. We arrived at this location for the first live in front of an audience chat show, and someone at one point said, "Oh yeah, there's no Wi-Fi." Sorry? Yeah. So we thought, and sure enough, it's telling me now that there may be a problem. So
Yeah, I just lost mine.
You lost yours too? Okay, good. So Jamie, being a wonderful producer,
we have to steal it from next door.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Stealing is wrong.
Stealing is wrong.
I want to make that perfectly clear to the audience, the kids at home.
Stealing is always wrong unless it's the Wi-Fi. So Jamie, being a wonderful producer, said, well, I'll go ahead and pull these off. These are questions that came in from Twitter and from the Facebook, and we can share some. We can print some out. We still have the capability for that. So this one comes to you from @hey_its_JC from the Twitter. What is the most repeated myth suggestion they get? So as a way to launch into the discussion of your wildly successful television program, we have this first question.
What is the most suggested myth we get?
Most repeated. Is there
That's a really good question. I'm not sure if I've noticed a specific grouping. There's drunk people will always suggest something that has to do with the genitalia of their friends.
There's a lot of unanswered questions there. That's all I have to say. There's a lot of unanswered.
Airports and hotels, you get some very interesting requests. A lot of people suggest things that we've already done. I mean, we've done 200 hours of the show at this point, so there's a lot that people might have missed.
Yeah.
Fuel efficiency tends to be the thing that people want to talk about. We've done about 6 or 7 episodes on different ways of saving fuel, and that gets people really going. They get very excited about it. They want to talk about it. But as far as a singular thing that most people ask about, does penis enlargement actually work? Which in my capacity as, you know, if you happen to meet me and I'm your personal MythBuster for that moment that we're talking, and you want to know a question, I would like to know the answer. So I researched it, and the answer is no.
Shock to no one, disappointment to several. Well, in terms of, I love that airports and hotels is when they're asking you to blow up their friend's genitalia.
Airports also, there's a specific kind of aggression that happens in airports early in the morning. You start to separate the fan interactions from the quiet handshakers to the scared children autographers to the yellers. There's people who just start yelling.
Yeah. Those are fun, aren't they?
And they yell in really quiet situations. So like you sit down on the plane and they stand over you going, "Hey, it's MythBusters! Dude, it's MythBusters right over here!" But in the airports early in the morning are these guys, you know, sitting on the benches in the airport as you're walking down the thing, and they sit there and they go, "There he goes! That's a MythBuster!" They don't actually want to talk to you.
Nope.
They just want to narrate for you.
Yeah.
It's happened dozens and dozens of times to me.
It's astonishing. It's astonishing that people want to lay claim to the sighting. I saw him first, is really what they're saying.
Exactly. I had one guy walk up to me. I was carrying a child in a bag, and he
Sure you
walked
were.
up and he held out his hand until I put down the bag and shook his hand and said, "You look so thin in person." It's actually something I get a lot.
Yes, well,
But my weight has
Don't we all?
changed over the years. And then he says, "How'd you get that job? How'd you get that job? It's a great job. You just fall into it, right place, right time, that kind of thing?"
oh my God.
And I can't even remember the third thing he said, but it was even more aggressive. And my wife says, as we're walking away, "Look, I understand that you have to be nice to everybody. You need them all to go away with a good experience. But do I?" And I said, "Absolutely not. No skin off my nose if I've got a crazy bitchy wife who yells at people. Water off a duck's back."
Jamie, pay attention to none of this. Jamie gets yelled at often at airports about me.
About you?
Yeah, I will go into the men's room or something, and someone will yell, "What do I know him from? What is the?"
Yeah, just tell me the name of the movie he was in. I'm like, I don't know what you saw.
Yeah. You know, if you have filmography, you know,
Yes,
technically
yeah.
when they come up and say, "What was that thing I saw you in?" there is scientifically no way to answer that.
Right?
Because I wasn't
Then you
with
start
them when
running
they
down
were
the
watching.
list. It's, you know, I mean, it's a guessing game of what movies have you seen.
Yeah.
It's like, have you seen A Few Good Men? No.
And then that's the worst part. You start going down the list.
Name the really esoteric ones
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
So she'll get yelled at, and "What movie did I see him in?" And she'll say, "Well, I don't know." And they'll say, "Just tell me!" Like she purposely withheld the information.
That's great. I watched John Landis go, "If you don't know, I'm not helping you."
Yeah. Sometimes I get to the point where I say, "You're going to have to do some of the math on your own." Yes. Anyway.
There's this lovely commercial for a cell phone where
David Paymer, that one?
Yes.
Yes, the AT&T
I
commercial,
love
yeah.
that. And
I
he's
was
the
this
perfect.
close to that part. This close.
The one time it actually paid, Sam,
Seriously.
they went with David Paymer.
With Paymer.
Hey,
No,
it's
but
that
he's a great one.
guy.com.
He's a great one of those character actors that you've seen him and everything. You're like, but who is that guy? Who is that guy? That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I love
awesome.
him. I always say that to Kevin that whenever people can't figure out who he is, I'm like, oh, they just think you're David Paymer.
Yeah.
I get people who will do this. They'll call me Jamie,
Sure.
and I have no qualms in not responding.
Because you want them to think Jamie's an asshole?
It doesn't matter. If they go away thinking he's an asshole, it's fine for me. And if they haven't gotten it right, if they haven't watched the show close enough, they also do this. Jamie! Jamie! You know, they try and get a response to see if I turn around.
It's the old Family Guy. Tom Bosley! Yeah. Tom Bosley! All right. At Venice Riley, two-part. Any hurts or fails too humiliating and or not camera worthy to air? And then the second part, dead interns, how many?
No dead interns.
Damn it!
No. We have 2 broken intern fingers.
Broken, not missing.
Not missing, just broken.
Okay, that'll heal. That's fine.
From moving safety equipment around. We use these bulletproof shield, bullet resistant.
You're resistant, let's be clear.
Yes. Bullet resistant shields that weigh about 160 pounds apiece, and they've fallen on people and hurt backs. They've broken 2 fingers. I have about 40 or 50 stitches in my hands, but no major injuries. As far as we have had one accident that wasn't on camera that we will never talk about. You should revel in that much information. Besides that, everything has been on camera. I think. Oh no, there is one that we filmed. So it's not on our part that we're too humiliated to put it on camera. It's a Discovery won't air it, and It was. We're doing an episode about. Your mom says, "Don't eat that crappy cereal. I'm not going to buy you that crappy cereal. The box is more nutritious than the cereal." So we decided to test it on mice.
Good.
So we got 4 cages of mice, a control eating normal mouse food, a group eating Fruit Loops, very happy mice eating Fruit Loops, and then we took the box and it was 3 cages. And we took a box and we ground it up into a pulp and molded it into pellets that looked just like mouse food.
Oh, fantastic.
And we put them in the cages, and we had 4 mice in each cage, and we were taking them out every day and weighing them and putting them back in. We had them numbered with Sharpie, and we weren't noticing any real difference. They were drinking, and most of what they were drinking a lot of water, so I wasn't noticing any difference significantly in the mice and their weights.
Right.
We went through this for about 4 days, and it was Friday, and Jamie was kind of overseeing the cages because Jamie actually, in a weird earlier life, had bought a pet store when he was 16 and ran it for 2 years.
Fantastic.
His mom died when he was 16 and left him a bunch of dough, and the pet store in Columbus, Indiana, where he grew up, was for sale, so he bought it. Ran it at a tidy profit and put himself through college.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. He's been a freak forever. So he was overseeing the mouse cages, and Friday he's turning out the lights. Everybody looks okay. The mice who were eating the cardboard box, he had actually added some artificial sweetener as to some hopeful reward for tasting it. It turns out mice can't taste artificial sweetener. So to them it was just cardboard. So they were kind of nibbling at it, but not much. And on Monday when we came in, there were no longer 3 mice in that cage. There was 1 really fat mouse. So no one will ever know what went down.
You didn't have the nanny cam on them?
No. Now we would. Now we'd put a GoPro on it all weekend, but we didn't. No one knows what went down. But the other 2 mice.
Survival of the fittest is what went down.
The other 2 mice looked like a Bugs Bunny cartoon of mice that had lost this fight. They were head, rib cage, and tail. Like he'd eaten them like corn on the cob. So I held him up and I said, "Well, killer." And I said, I hope this teaches you a lesson, kids. This is what happens when mice attack." And the camera zoomed in on the mouse. And
so Discovery somehow decided not to air that?
it also might have contributed to that we then took the mouse upstairs and fed it to Jamie's snake. We thought it was only right. Once it had tasted the blood of its brother and it was not safe to put back out into the wild.
It was only a matter of time before you were in danger.
Exactly. Like that ironing presser from that Stephen King story.
Think it's cool to eat your roommates, eh?
Yes. So they've discovered.
Meet your new roommate.
In fact, actually, one of the editors sent me the segment edited as, "This is the funniest thing we've ever filmed on the show." So I took it out to a college date that Jamie and I did, and we showed it and brought the house down. And then I got a call from Discovery. It's one of the only times they've ever called to be like, "Do not ever show that again in public."
Yeah. Well, technically, they do own the
It's true.
footage.
It's true. But as long as you have a hit show, no one will yell at you.
Yeah, no, they'll just,
They'll yell at other people who will tell you that someone's unhappy.
yeah. They'll make us a request.
I will know that our show is on its descendant, on the other end of the bell curve when someone finally gets mad in front of me. I figure
That's right.
That's one of the
That's how
ways
you
I'll
know.
know. Oh,
You're not-
wow.
You're not wrong.
Here it goes.
Yeah. Since we are enjoying the Twitter and the questions coming in from there, we would like to have a little fun. You're on the Twitter yourself under
I am.
at Don't Try This.
I am.
If anyone wants to follow Adam. And we've found some fun with our own little version of a Twitter game that Sam is the host of. There'll be a graphic coming up. Those of you watching online here in the audience live, not so much. But it's time for the Twitter game. Who tweeted?
Roll that graphic.
Who tweeted?
Who tweeted? Thank you. Now you guys have watched the.
Thank you.
4, 3. Okay. You guys have seen the program before. You've seen me host the Who Tweeted game. Yeah. Okay, so you know how it works. You don't know how it works.
I have
so
no
I'll
idea how it
explain.
works.
Here we go. So this would be Who Tweeted Tyra, Paris, or Justin Bieber edition.
Oh. Ooh, nice reaction.
people.
I like that.
In the land of the
Mixing
blind
it
men.
So I'm going to read a series of 8 tweets, and at the end of each one, you're playing against Kevin. You're going to buzz in and tell me who you believe authored that tweet.
Okay.
Tyra, Paris, or Justin Bieber.
Who has a writing utensil? Anybody up front there? Any kind? There we are. Oh. What took you so long?
All right,
Thank
so
you very much.
you're playing against
For
Kevin.
all 4 of those.
You ring in. You ring in, by the way, by pounding the table or saying your name, and then I'll
Okay.
point
I
to
think
you.
sound would prefer you say your name rather than pounding the table.
Yeah, don't pound the table, just say it. And then I'll point to you. You have 3 seconds to say Tyra, Paris, or Justin.
Okay.
You ring in, you get it right, you win 5 points. You ring in, you get it wrong, you lose 3. At the end of 8, there'll be a winner. Now, audience, which we've never done this before, please do not shout out the answers if you think you know.
You're not actually competing.
However, feel free to applaud wildly whether the person you're rooting for has gotten it correct or incorrect. I want this to be a blood match.
A blood match.
And we are not playing for shigs.
We're not?
No.
What are we playing for, Sammy?
$20 US.
Oh!
There you go.
Gambling, eh?
Excellent.
A little gambling here at Cobb's Comedy Club. Are you ready to play?
Yes.
Tweet number 1. Belly button talk time. I used to be an outie, now I'm an innie. Weird. Maybe I am an alien. You outie or innie? And how often you clean it?
Adam,
Yes, sir.
that smells like Tyra.
That is correct. That sure is Tyra.
The game is afoot.
She's definitely captain of the all-alien basketball team.
Yeah.
I can't believe they lost to the Harlem Globetrotters. Tweet number 2. I kind of like baggy jeans right now. The tight ones are kind of ouch sometimes. What denim you rocking?
Kevin Paris.
Incorrect. Also Tyra.
Whoa!
Yeah. Switching it up.
Just didn't seem like a fellow thing.
Tweet number 3.
Nah.
Loving life and all its wonders. It's apostrophe S.
Adam, Paris.
That is correct!
That was a lob, really.
Grammar police never sleep. Tweet number 4. Nothing really exciting to say right now. I'm just sitting here like, what should I write?
Kevin Bieber.
That is correct.
On the board, off the
On the
schneid.
board. +2. Tweet number 5. Loving at I Am Diddy's new album, Last Train to Paris. Check it out.
Kevin Paris? Can't be.
That is correct.
Oh, nice.
Why would she love that song?
I can't imagine. We got a real game here, gentlemen.
All right,
A
easy.
score of 10-7. Really, anyone's game? Tweet number 6.
You didn't really commit to that comment. Really anyone's game there. You kind of trailed off.
It could be anyone's game.
All right.
I could still win. Tweet number 6. Can't win them all. Just got to be yourself. All days aren't fun, but every day is another opportunity.
Adam Bieber.
That is correct.
It's just the kind of self-help claptrap I'd expect from a 16-year-old.
He's been taking a lot of Deepak Chopra seminars.
Oh,
I think
Christ.
he's really going to help some people.
He's touring with Jewel now.
3 correct answers in a row.
That's right.
Interesting. Oh.
Tweet number 7. My friend Kamala Harris just swore in as Attorney General of California, my home state.
Kevin
Yeah!
Tyra.
I'm supposed to call on you.
I think he was ahead of me. I was going to say the same thing, but I think it's yours.
I was looking down, so
That's
I missed.
all right.
I missed the what happened. Let's go to the audience for because there was a
Who rang
murmur.
in first?
Ooh, I heard
a
both
second.
say.
We have some controversy here. All right, by round of applause. Who rang in first? Adam? Kevin? All right. Mr. Pollak, your answer.
I don't like this. I tell you what. On a count of 3. Well, it's been so long now. I forgot what the tweet was.
I'll be happy to remind you. My friend Kamala Harris
I
just
am
swore
done.
in.
On a count of 3, let's see if we both got it right or wrong. You count us down, and we'll say the answer at the same time. How about
1, 2, 3.
Tyra?
Yes, of course. It's Tyra.
All right, then we'll throw that one out. Do you possibly have a
Well,
replacement?
no, actually, I think we're gonna keep that one in there because that keeps the game interesting, my friend.
You mean you're giving it to me?
I'm gonna give that one to you because that gives you 12 points to Adam's 15.
All right.
Don't you
So
see?
it comes down to the final
It
question.
comes down to the 8th and final tweet. We don't want to run away.
Okay. All right. Everyone likes a close game, I suppose.
And it's a good one, this tweet number 8.
All right. Here we go.
You only live once. Make the most of the life you live.
Adam Bieber.
I'm afraid that's incorrect. Which means we have a tie!
We do have it.
And you are tied at 12.
Oh, because he lost 3. I was thinking
That's
5, and it's an exact tie.
That's right.
Do you have a tiebreaker?
I do indeed.
Always.
I'm a tiebreaker.
Always a tiebreaker. We've only had a tie once in 99 shows. This is number 2. None of your business. Who was the last one was the question.
Here's the tiebreaker. The rules are simple.
It was recently. Does anyone
It was
remember who
recently.
the last one, the tie was? Let's file that under on a need-to-care basis.
So here's how it works. I will read the tweet. Buzz in, you get it right, you win. Buzz in, you get it wrong, you lose. It's that simple. Guess what I'm saying is do what you love and never let anyone stop you. Stay true to yourself.
Adam
Don't-
Bieber.
We have a winner! And that is how you play.
Thank you, Sam Levine. What a wild and crazy outing for Who Tweeted. That was fantastic.
That was
Thank
great.
you so much for playing along. Sam, nice job. Jamie, how are things in the chat room at present?
Oh,
Anything?
they love playing along. They like the addition of the Bieber.
No, they do.
Yeah.
That was your doing.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't tweet enough.
To me,
And it's mostly about ending child slavery, so you can't really use that.
there's only so many questions before we realize, yeah.
Yes, it was Emily's idea.
To do Bieber?
Yeah.
Oh,
She was-
Emily Goodwin gets the credit on that one. Good for you, darling.
Have you thought about doing a drunk tweets version? You
You
do Louis C.K. and Kanye. And
Louis C.K., Kanye, and who's the other great
I'm
drunk
trying to think
tweeter?
who else has tweeted drunk.
Hemingway? He
Jamie?
doesn't tweet that much anymore, though.
No.
Not as much as he used to.
I want to know if we can jump around a little bit more now about the Harvard Humanism Award.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, the Harvard Humanist Society awarded Jamie and I the Lifetime Achievement Award for advancing critical thinking.
This just happened last year?
What's that?
No, when did this happen?
This is last year.
Last year.
Last year. And it was interesting because both Jamie and I are atheists. We talked about
Atheists!
Don't be afraid.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to applaud.
No, it was funny. There was this point at which, just after it happened, Jamie and I were driving in a car, and Jamie is absolutely a robot. So he was saying, "I don't really know what to, how to approach this. Should we tell them? Should I say that I think that religion is stupid, or should I?" And we talked about it a lot. I'm a big reader of Christopher Hitchens, of Richard Dawkins, of Daniel Dennett. I attend James Randi's The Amazing Meeting, a skeptical conference every year in Las Vegas. I pay a lot of attention to the movement, and the getting that call out from Harvard was lovely. And I wrote a piece that I spoke there about my atheism. I'm actually I think a fourth generation atheist.
Fourth generation.
Fourth generation.
That's got to be rare.
And it was a fantastic. Actually, the funniest thing about it from a performance standpoint was I love performing in churches.
Yeah.
The acoustics are phenomenal.
Yeah, they really are.
I was like, how ironic is this?
Yeah, it's perfectly ironic. So then the actual award ceremony itself, and then did you both speak at the?
Actually, I had prepared a piece
Right.
talking about the makeup of my, the way I think about the universe. And I finished with, it actually turns out in a weird way that Jamie and I, through totally different means, have come to the same conclusion about life, which is that you can do something you enjoy. And we've also read and loved many of the same books. Both of our top 5 is 100 Years of Solitude. And we both plowed through all of Carlos Castaneda in our early 20s. While one of us did a lot of drugs. Okay, both of us. But actually, no, I'm sorry. I've never done drugs.
Much better.
So I had concluded with a piece about Castaneda saying, I said, it's a lovely idea to think that there's somebody watching over. It's an addictive idea. I would love that to be true. Yeah. I can't conclude that it is. But in Castaneda's books, which whether fact or analogy doesn't matter, if you take them as analogy, they're beautiful poetry. There's this bit at the end of one called The Eagle's Gift, in which the thing that gives consciousness to people is described by the Indian mystics as the eagle. And they describe it that way because they've seen it, and it is impossibly cold the way an eagle is when it hunts. It is devoid of any emotion. But it gives people their consciousness, and then when they die, it gobbles their consciousness back up. This is what the mystics have seen, and he writes about this as a vision that Castaneda has in the book. And his teacher then tells him that there is no purpose to life. There is no meaning to it. The eagle gives you your consciousness, he gobbles it back up. It is a circle. It does not matter what you do. It has no consequence. But because consciousness is such a lovely gift, you can make yourself an especially nice meal for the eagle if you widen your consciousness as much as possible while you have it.
Wow, nice, very nice.
I think that's as good a mission as any.
Yeah. Wow. I was just...
So Jamie got up after I said that I'd written this piece over a couple of weeks, and Jamie got up. He hadn't prepared anything, and got up and he goes, "What he said." Which was great.
Literally?
That's all he said. He's got phenomenal comic timing occasionally. He could bust out with just like the most brilliant, just floor the crowd.
Oh my God. Because, it's been said over and over again, and even the quote, I was going to ask how you felt about being described as the more hammy of the two, but the truth is, there's a yin and yang thing happening, and that's a perfect example of this laid out.
It's a far out thing being partners with somebody. You don't when you're a kid. Hold on, I just want to make sure it's not one of my kids calling me.
Sure, please.
When you're a kid and you imagine your future.
Should I be shocked that your screen on the iPhone is shattered?
I drove over it a couple days ago. It still works great.
What myth were you
MythBusters, hard at work. You can drive over an iPhone and it worked fine.
I'd actually
Can't make a call because it's AT&T.
My friend Chris just calls it the iPad Nano. Neither makes it perfect. Yeah, when you picture yourself being successful as a kid, you think, someday I'm going to be successful. You never imagine it's going to be with somebody else. But when you find a partnership that works, and like I found with Jamie, it's an astonishing thing because it's nothing like what you would expect a partnership would work like. It thrives on adversity and conflict. And, Penn and Teller are friends of mine, and that's the strength of their relationship is the fact that they drive each other crazy. Yeah. And the same thing with me and Jamie. It wouldn't work if we weren't acting as a counterpoint to each other. The stuff we do wouldn't
count on it.
Nearly the integrity that it does, because
Questioning
each of us is fighting all the time.
Yeah, you won't get away with this.
Yeah, and so there's a point at which we codified it a little bit in terms of actually discussing it. Was we were just about to do Letterman. And we're going to sit on the couch. It was a big thing. It had taken months of negotiation.
Instead of just a demo.
Instead of doing a demo, we were sitting on the couch. And Letterman is a huge fan of the show. He's really sweet about it. He's watched every episode with his kid. But we were preparing for it, and we were preparing for it by actually watching really crappy Letterman appearances.
Wow.
Like people who were having really bad times and watching how it went sour. Watching Paris Hilton.
Crispin
Glover, watching Bear Grylls.
Nice.
Get just hammered away at, and we were just taking note what we would do if we got, because we didn't know how it was going to go. We were very scared of Dave.
You did scientific research
into
how to appear on Letterman.
It did.
Wow. You are purist.
And I said just the day before, I was like, so you realize when we sit down, there's not enough time for us to do our normal rapport. We're going to have to revert to a funny man, straight man thing. So I'm going to do most of the talking and you're going to get most of the laughs.
Nice.
And he killed. He absolutely,
of course he did.
Jamie knows exactly when to throw out the right line. It was great. It's been a lovely progression, both of us learning to perform in our own way.
I promised before we started that I would allow the live audience an opportunity, as was my nutty design a year or so ago when I thought it might be at some point interesting to try to do this in front of a live audience. I promised them that they would have an opportunity to ask a question or two. So the hands go flying up right away. I'm going to start with a gentleman in the front center because at what time did you guys arrive here this morning? Be honest. Be honest.
Around 10:30.
Around 7:30? Around 10:30 a.m. I think I'll just repeat the question instead of trying to work the mic, and I think that'll probably take more time.
I'm just wondering, are there any myths that Cary Grant and Tori have worked on that maybe became so interesting while they were working on them that you felt an interest to get involved?
If you wouldn't mind regurgitating that question. Yeah,
are there any myths that Cary Grant and Tori have worked on that we've gotten interested enough to come in and involve ourselves in the story? We are involved in their stories. Jamie and I are now executive producers of the show after all this time. And we all work together as a team to make the best stories. That being said, I am sometimes jealous of the things that they get to do. And they are sometimes jealous of the things we get to do. And there's just not enough stories to go around for us all to always do stuff that we really want to do. There is one I really wished I could have done, which turned out to be one of my favorites. The myth is that your mood can affect your fuel efficiency. Driving angry is less fuel efficient than driving relaxed. So they came up with this great methodology of choosing things for Grant and Tori, and I think Cary, but I think most of it I remember Grant and Tori, that they really hated. And then they made them drive right away. So for Tori, it was getting a massage from a dude. And we had this.
Rotman, you listening?
We had this runner who's an actor, a budding actor. He just got accepted into the Groundlings in L.A.
Nice.
And Matt Cordova, he was Matt's man massage, and he took off his shirt and he rubbed Tori down, and Tori hated it. Grant turns out to have a phobia of fish touching his feet.
That's not a thing.
No,
He totally made that
He
up.
totally has a. So they filled
That's actually not something that I appreciate you making fun of.
We-
Very serious.
I believe, Jamie, you may have a phobia of fish touching your feet.
I'm afraid of fish.
Yeah. So if they in fact touched your feet, I believe this would be.
Oh, I would freak the.
All right. All right. All right. So.
Like I'll go in the ocean, and if I see one fish, I bolt like down the beach. I'm so afraid of them.
Wow. So they filled 2 buckets full of koi goldfish.
Oh, the koi are the worst.
They're not piranha.
And catfish. Oh, catfish are so crazy.
And then he sat there for like 15 minutes, and then they made him drive. And in fuel efficiency, if you can save 3-4%, that's actually quite significant over a year of driving, or even a month of driving. And at the end of this episode, they found the difference between driving relaxed and driving angry was something like 14%.
Oh my God.
It was one of the single largest results we've ever gotten from fuel efficiency stories. And I would have loved to have tried it out. And that to me is really fun. There are actually, as a whole Japanese subculture of people who, excuse me, try to drive in the most fuel efficient way possible, and they've actually gotten up to like 60 miles to the gallon out of unmodified cars. They drive barefoot, they sandpaper the bottom of their feet, and they're probably the worst people in the world to drive behind, which means they probably drive like San Franciscans.
Yeah.
Stopping at every stoplight, driving the speed limit. It's excruciating. Morons, totally.
All right, excellent question indeed. I want to get away from the front row just out of fairness. We'll come back to it perhaps. Yes, right there.
I was just curious. I started watching MythBusters when I was 13.
How old are you now?
I'm 20.
All right.
And so, is that kind of surreal to you that the show has lasted as long as it has?
Yeah. So is it surreal to me that you've been watching the show for 7 years and you're now almost old enough to drink? Yeah. Totally. We were in London. My wife and I went to London for the Christmas holidays just to chill. And we love good food, so we ate our way through London. And on the last night, we reserved a table in the kitchen, which it turns out you can do, at May's, which is one of Gordon Ramsay's places. And the dinner was astonishing, and the people there are amazing. And it is like a movie set of people who are brilliant about food, all making food for you. And the head chef comes up to me and he says, "I love your show. I've been watching it since I was little."
Wow.
Yeah.
Never felt so old.
I know. Yeah, it's totally surreal. It's lovely too. Bless you.
Yeah. You got a little on you.
A cartoon character just sneezed, I think.
I've gotten notes from people who've already graduated from college in engineering saying that watching the show inspired them to do that.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
That
that's
is
tough
the
to
most humbling part about doing this job.
Yeah.
Thank you. It feels like such a cheap applause. But to me, because we really didn't set out to do that at all, and we understand that not setting out to do that is the reason that it works.
Absolutely.
We don't try and be worthy. We do not try and talk down to people.
You don't have to try.
And
No, but I mean, the very core and integrity of your efforts on the show is what's having the effect, not any sort of effort beyond it.
yeah, and the fact of it that the California Science Teachers Association has made us honorary lifetime members.
Extraordinary.
And we speak at their conference every year, and they are the most amazing audience. And I have so much respect for those guys. Teachers, I hate all children except my own.
Yeah.
I could not do it.
I'm not that fond of yours. Never met them, totally a lie. All right. Over on this side, right there, if you would, stand up.
You guys opened up the Rally for Sanity with Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could talk about that experience.
That was far more surreal than this guy watching since he was a little. It starts with this jacket. We were at the Emmys last year.
Let's reiterate the question, sorry.
Oh, sorry. The question is, what was the experience of being the opening act for the Rally to Restore Sanity and/or Fear with Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert? The Emmys last year, MythBusters was nominated for an Emmy, which we did not win. And as we were walking, when you go to the Emmys, these are the Creative Arts Emmys, the Schmemmys.
Shmemmy.
And they're like 17 hours long, and then you file and limp across the street to the governor's ball. And while you're limping across the street, you see all these people you admire, and they're all far handsomer than you can imagine. And then this group of guys was walking next to us. I was thinking of John Hamm, who's
sure.
impossibly handsome in person.
It's annoying.
It's
Truly
crazy.
annoying. Yeah.
This group of guys was walking next to us, and one of them walks up to me wearing this lovely plaid jacket, and he's holding an M, and he goes, "Hey, I write for Stephen Colbert, and we just won, so I thought, fuck it, I'd say hi." I'm a big fan.
Oh my God.
So we started, I said, what's your table number? I love you guys, what's your table number? And he told me, and then my wife and I went over and sat down with him for about half an hour, and started a mutual admiration society. We started discussing things. We started talking about ways that Stephen could come on the show and we could go on his show and play around.
Fantastic.
And Stephen's a huge fan. And I heard about the rally. And so I wrote to the writer and I said, do you want us to come to the rally? And he said, well, do you want to come and hang out or do you want to do something? And I was like, yes. Whatever you would want.
Yeah.
And culminated in, I was in LA, I was at dinner with friends, and I got this email from Stephen, which was like, and Julie was, my wife was like, what? And I was like, look. She's like, So I started texting, I started writing back. She goes, you're just going to write back to him like that, just like that. Not going to plan anything. No, I'm just going to write. So Stephen and I got on the phone.
You're not going to scientifically research it?
No. We got on the phone a few days later and talked for about an hour and a half, and he had all these amazing ideas. I mean, he was saying things like, you want to experiment on a 250,000 people? We got to think of big things. We got to think of big things. If it wouldn't play in Mesopotamia, it won't play in Washington.
Nice.
It's too big a crowd to be subtle with.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? And we went back and forth about several things. I called a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Weissman, who's this wonderful personality and writer, a psychologist in London. And he came up with the idea of experimenting with the wave. You crowd that big, you can experiment with the wave, which is often called the Mexican wave.
Sure.
Although here in California, that sounds like the wrong thing to call it. So we just call it the wave. We played around with having the audience say some things, and then I had this idea that I'd always wanted to try of getting an entire crowd to jump and see if you could pick it up on a seismograph.
Oh my God.
I thought, 250,000. We thought it was going to be, they had an estimate of about 150,000 people. It turns out in the final analysis it was about 240,000 people. From the stage, it was a mile of people.
Oh yeah.
It was astonishing. And they jumped once, and I could see that they weren't in sync. And this is lovely. Stephen was like, well, get them all to jump at the same time. And I said, well, of course you realize that we'd have to flash the jump command on the screen because the speed of sound is too slow to make that jump simultaneous. And Stephen was like, oh, that's great! So yeah, I watched the crowd jump out of sync. And the next time we did it, I said, everyone jump in, follow this, don't listen to the sound of my voice. And I watched a mile of people jump at the same time. I will also point out that backstage at events like that is the most surreal place on earth. It is like a dream sequence where, people are chasing around your house with sea hunt rifles. Nothing makes sense. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is chatting with Sam Waterston. The Osbournes just came up and said hello, and John Legend is again far handsomer than a human should be allowed. So we're backstage, and we're about to go up on stage, and we go up on stage, and they tell us there's going to be this big teleprompter out there, so we can be looking out at the crowd, and there is no teleprompter out there. And we've written this 20-minute script.
That's now on teleprompter.
Right. The thing was I had written the final draft the night before, so I knew it. But Jamie didn't know it. And I had written it Adam heavy so that I could give him some good laugh lines and good chunks. And we talked through it, but he hadn't memorized it in any way. So we finally found this prompter on the ground that was scrolling through the lines.
Oh my God.
But so yeah, we were winging it for most of that 20 minutes.
And some of this memorized from text, as you said, you finished the night before, and then Jamie having no idea when to.
But he understands when I'm throwing him something, and so again we picked it up, we pulled it out of the fire, and we came back, and everyone was super sweet. And Stephen, there's so many stories from this, but the main one is that Stephen came up afterwards, about 10 minutes later, and he just grabbed me and gave me this big hug and said, "That was amazing! That was awesome! did you have fun?
Ah!
And his entire staff did the same thing. They all said it was great, and then they all said, did you have fun? And apparently it's written up on the wall in their writing room. Is it funny? Is it sexy? Are we having fun? Let's do it.
Wow. I don't understand the is it sexy part, but I like all of it.
I think he means sexy in terms of like, does it get you going? Is it really something you've got to do? The other thing that happened when I got off stage is I was going into the, you're just, you're like, boo. So I got off and this guy buttonholes me just as I'm about to go into the tent. And he says, how was it out there? I can't do his British accent. He was like, how was it out there? So, so my British is Australian. And he starts, and I'm trying to answer these detailed questions he has about what it's like to perform for a crowd that big. And he's asking really pointed questions like, can you hear them? Do you get any feedback? What is it like? And then after about 3 minutes, I go, fuck! And he goes, what? And I said, you're Eddie Izzard!
Fantastic. And a perfect example of a surreal experience like that and how it takes shape and what a great moment to sort of not only have a memory of, but to share with us like that. Eddie holds the record for the longest interview here in the chat show archives, 2 hours and 31 minutes.
Wow.
He's a talker. And in fear of matching and beating his 2 hours and 31 minutes.
Because I'm ready.
And we're ready.
I got nothing to do but return a couple of carpets.
Yeah, well, I think we have some helping hands here if you should need them. The fine folks at Cobb's here, I have 2 shows to do, and they sort of gave us a time frame and said, can you be out by this time? And they explained it to my director, Mike Rotman, who brought it to me. Again, no one's yelling at me, but rather coming with requests.
But I have a hit show, right? I don't think they're going to yell at us.
Exactly. So I said, all right, well, we're going to go 15 or so minutes long, and that's just the way it is. So I wanted to be respectful as I now let the management know that we're about to go a bit over. And also thank everyone for your questions, and I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. I want to have one more up here. As I said, we'll come back right over here to the front. Yep.
Two-part question.
Nope, sorry, just one part. No.
How often do people ask you about myths? And have you heard the myth that you can live almost indefinitely on nothing but Guinness draft and oranges?
Okay, how often do people ask me questions about specific myths, and have I heard the myth that you can live indefinitely on Guinness draft and oranges? That sounds totally plausible. It doesn't sound pleasant for you or anyone around you.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what your poop would look like after a few days on Guinness draft and oranges. It'd be foamy.
It would be
Keith
foamy.
Richards has been living that way for 65 years.
Forget the oranges, love.
The people that ask the specific questions are science geek kids, and they're some of my favorite kids to talk to. And I love talking to them so much. I've been giving the keynote for the last couple of years at the the California Science Fair down at the Staples Center. And afterwards this year, I'm going to do a thing with them where I'm going to bring autograph cards for them. And I'll bring some pictures that they can have, and I'll sign them. I'll have signed them beforehand, but I don't want to take pictures or do autographs while I'm there because I actually want to talk to the kids.
Right.
Because here's what happens. Kids see someone they know from television who's they admire. There's deer in the headlights, and they actually say things like, wow. They say it. They go, you're really here.
They say things like, fuck, you're Eddie Izzard.
Yes. And they kind of pause, and their parents go, what is that story you wanted to ask them about? And they go, ha. But the science geek kids, they do all the same stuff, and then they go, I was wondering why you use white mice and the elephants are afraid of white story, because white mice aren't really natural in nature. You should have used some other colors, perhaps, to make it more accurate. They step right past the social fear of meeting someone famous and right into the science, and it is super fun to talk to them because you got to give it up. Yes, you're absolutely right. We messed that one up completely. We thought we were producing fluff for the show. We didn't realize we were conducting an actual experiment that would have a positive result.
Right.
That's why we used white mice, because we were making comedy.
Yeah.
We just accidentally made some science, which is the theme of our show in general.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, I love talking to kids about the show. And I actually love taking questions about it. People disagree. I'll totally not stand by our results. I will explain why we came to them and why we, stand by our methodologies. That's the thing about the show, is that we're not scientists and we're not qualified through any educational background to do what we do. But we do think methodically, and we love telling the story of each experiment proceeding from its predecessor. So if somebody has a problem, it's either that they didn't watch the whole episode, which is almost always the answer.
Wow.
So why did you do that experiment of that? Well, when did you come in? In the middle? I rest my case. Or a sequence got cut out, which also happens. We shoot, almost for every episode, we shoot some experimental sequence that doesn't make it in because we do too much. Sure. We want to get this whole thing in. I wish it could be 1 story per hour instead of 2 stories per hour. But it turns out that it's just a little too much for us to do. So in the end, the other thing that astonishes me over the years is that I actually can remember almost all of the stories.
That is odd.
There's about 600 separate experiments we've done over the years, 600 or 800 of them. And I can pretty much go back over why we did something almost every time.
Apparently, if you were Mary Lou Henner, you could say which one was number 237, which one was number 19.
Oh, really?
You can ask her any day of her life, an actual date.
Really?
What happened this day, sort of thing. She has she was on 60 Minutes or something.
Mary Lou Henner, the actress from Taxi.
The very one.
I've met her a couple of times. The first time I met her because she had a Discovery show, and I went right up to her and said, "I've loved you since," and then I realized to say the figure I was about to say would be insulting, and then I said, "Forever."
Yeah.
And then I was actually signing autographs at the California Science Fair down at Staples Center, and she came up with her son, who's a huge fan of the show. And she said, "I don't know if you know, but I'm Mary Lou Henner from Taxi." And I'm like, "Are you kidding?"
I had a crush on you
I had
since
such
forever.
a crush on you sometime.
The other thing I wanted to include was we mentioned at Martha_S, or one of our original friends and fans, who offered up another ritual of the show to use specific, a little thing we like to call Tweet 5. There's a graphic running right now on the interweb of the show. Dave Keckner is counting down. Say it as a group.
Not a lot of commitment, but it's a nice sound.
We'll rehearse it next time. I just noticed a couple of people are wearing the Chat Show t-shirts down front, so thank you for that. All right, so this T5 comes from at Martha_S. This is a this or that, Coke or Pepsi, no correct answer, sort of, and designed usually specifically for the guests. Here we go with the T5 number 1. Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
Oh, that's tough. Okay, I have to say, if you're going to quantify one as better than the other, you have to say, is it all 3 Lord of the Rings movies versus all 6 Star Wars movies? In which case, Lord of the Rings. But given the fact that there are in fact, only 2 Star Wars movies, I say Star Wars. And I don't think Peter Jackson would dispute that.
Oh, that's lovely. And 100% correct. Chandler or Murakami?
Oh, God, that's a lovely question. Someone's really researched. It's Chandler, but only because he precedes and inspires Murakami.
Oh, nice. Bayrite mint chip or salted caramel?
These are getting stalkerishly. I live around the corner from Bayrite. Mint chip is a favorite in our household. I don't want to give away too much freaking information. My new favorite's eggnog. Go to hell.
Tarantino, Terry Gilliam. Terry Gilliam.
Jesus Christ, these are really hard.
Martha_S does her homework.
She's also a super genius and then went to Berkeley and
Really?
Yes.
Then there's that, yes.
She's getting like her. So.
I hope I don't meet her because she sounds like she's got my number. It's Tarantino.
Yes, that is the correct answer also.
I love,
Correct answer.
we're talking tiny increments at the top of a huge scale.
Dodo birds, those aren't supposed to be easy. Dodo birds or dinosaurs?
Oh, dodo birds.
Oh, that was easy. All right. Thank you, Martha, for that. You know, the audience has done so well, I feel as though I want to, as we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, I want to maybe give one more opportunity at, yes, sir, right up front.
Are you still doing any more effects work or consulting, or just mainly MythBusters?
Am I still doing effects work or consulting? No, I'm not. MythBusters has been our full-time job for the better part of a decade now. Unlike normal TV shows that shoot like 6 or 8 or 9 months a year, we shoot 46 weeks a year.
Wow.
Full-time.
Why?
Because that's how long it takes to make it. It takes us 2 weeks to shoot an episode.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Just so you know, for those of you that may not follow this sort of information, that is unparalleled.
Yeah, it's
Even a ridiculous drama that costs $4 to $5 million an episode doesn't shoot for 2 weeks.
No. It's we've never found a way of making it more efficient, although we are rapidly looking for ways to make it more efficient.
There's no pressure from Discovery. I know you're a huge hit for them, if not helping to brand the network yourselves. But 2 weeks, my lord. So 46 weeks out of 52.
Yeah. So what we do is we shoot for 3 months, and then we take a couple weeks off, which is just about enough time to realize that you're really tired. Then we get back to work. I still feed the bone. I still feed the beast that loves effects. I make and collect and trade movie props. I loved making spaceships, and I loved making props when I worked in the movies. It all stems from a deep love of objects, and the narrative inherent in those objects, or the narrative I can give them as an artisan. And there are objects that I love from movies. There's a talk I have on Fora.tv about the Maltese falcon and the dodo bird. That's all about that passion of mine. And so I'm always working on 2 or 3 different projects. Right now, with help of a good friend of mine and the studio that built it, I'm replicating Rasputin's mecha hand from the beginning of Hellboy. Yeah, I love the prop. And Mike Elzon from Spectral Motion that made the prop has afforded me some access to pictures and measurements. I've never had access to a prop before. I've usually had to do screenshots and make measurements off the screen and extrapolate and find found parts and stuff like this. This, I get to talk to my old colleagues like Mark Satrakian from, who built the thing, did all the mechanical problem solving. I get to talk to him about some of the things that they did and what's inside that. So I'm having a lot of fun working on that right now. I actually just... my wife and I just moved into the Mission District after a long time in the foggiest part of San Francisco. We've moved into the sunniest. And as such, because it's off-street parking so important, I rented a shop around the corner, and I've got a lovely shop where I get to spend about maybe 3 or 4 hours a month, but I'm putting together a set of tools that allow me to work super efficiently when I get in there. To make the maximal use of that time. All the rest of the time I spend building the stuff in my head and problem solving the stuff, on planes and figuring out what I'm going to do once I get into the shop. And when I'm all done, I'll end up with a movie prop. So it's kind of like working. Although there is this, but it's kind of like working in effects. Although there is this part of me that thinks, God, if only I had an unfettered 40 hours to work on something like this, it would be like a frickin' vacation.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well, it's pretty tremendous to see that the never-ending fascination that I think kickstarted, if not drove, your childhood remains so vibrantly today. In the fact that you have access to these tools that you mentioned, and not to mention John Hamm and Eddie Izzard.
There's a funny thing that happens, though, that you might think about the narrative, I certainly would from the outside, as like, geeky kid, doesn't have a lot of friends and didn't know about girls until really late, makes good and now can do whatever he wants and is unembarrassed and is a total unabashed geek. The fact is, actually, I still get embarrassed and weirded out by some of the stuff that I find really thrilling. I go to Comic-Con and Dragon Con every year, and every year I put together a full costume and I walk the floor in the costume. And it's not a stunt. I love putting on costumes. I love the transformation, It is a weird thing to love. It feels like a foot fetish. I am definitely getting the full experience of what it's like to be Chewbacca. And there's a part of me, so a great example is that we did this show on MythBusters called Dumpster Diving, and the movie's action hero will often jump into a dumpster to save himself at the end of a chase sequence.
Sure.
So is it really that safe to jump into dumpsters? We went to the dump and we found one full of medical waste that wasn't good for jumping in, and then we found a mattress factories that was good for jumping in, and I got trained by a stuntman how to jump into a dumpster, how to jump from 20 feet. Which is terrifying.
Absolutely.
I was physically ill at the end of the first day.
Dumpster looks this big from only 20 feet.
Your body just doesn't want you to step over the threshold. I was physically ill from the adrenaline, the repeated adrenaline rush. So the way we plotted the sequence was, Jamie and I were going to wear sweatsuits that said stunt trainee. We looked like Russian pimps. And we would jump off. That would be the first day, and then we'd have a transition, so different costume. I'm always thinking in terms of the costumes, from the show. So I thought, I'm going to dress like Neo. I'm going to get a nice flowing black coat. So I got these big black boots on Haight Street, and I got this long coat on eBay, and I put on these gold glasses and my contacts, and I walked out from around the back of my car, and my crew saw me standing there, and I watched a whole crew of people who know me as well as anybody in my family knows me, and we've worked together for 8 years, and they all went, like this.
You can still surprise them.
And I felt like I felt that feeling of being 10 years old and embarrassed, even 15, and embarrassed there's still Legos in my room during the tour for the girl. And yet I was thinking, no, push past this, because this is going to look freaking fantastic on high-speed camera. And I did my first jump, and my director came over. She said, I was a little dubious, and I thought it was foolish, and then I saw that high-speed shot and full marks. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So there is still, to me, so I recognize that coming right up to that point of embarrassment, of being vulnerable like that, is my stock in trade. It's the thing that is making me my living, and it's the thing that's making everything possible. So I have to keep on doing that. It's not a comfortable place to walk the floor in costume. It's weird and it's complicated, and there's all sorts of things you have to confront about yourself if you love wearing costumes like that, or want to be Hellboy. It's, whatever that says about you. But examining it is important, and I realize it's also important for the 14-year-old kids I think about out there in the world that want to go do the thing that they want to do. Fuck it, they totally should. And if they can see me do this, and that gets them down that path, I checked. It's the least I can do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We talked a little bit backstage about hopefully a day not too long off when you and Jamie can both sit at our table, our normal table in Santa Monica, which is slightly larger than this, and enough to accommodate both of you. And this has been a while coming for my own designs and desires, and so this is not just the live part, but of course you being here, and I can't thank you enough. I will try to figure out a way. And I didn't want to forget, though, that you made an attempt to offer up a presentation backstage.
Yes,
to me.
absolutely. Sorry.
And I said, let's save it for them.
You're a big fan of the show,
Yeah.
so I wanted to give you this. In military and police units, any kind of paramilitary unit, there's a tradition called challenge coins. And the challenge coin is a talisman that every member of the unit carries. And the requirement of the challenge coin is that you carry it in your pocket at all times, and if any member of your unit brings out his challenge coin, everyone in the room has to bring out theirs, and the last person to do it, or whoever's forgotten theirs, has to buy the round. So over Christmas this year, on our 8th anniversary of the show, I made a set of challenge coins, and I'm giving you one there.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Here's to never buying a round. All I have for you is a chat show mug.
I'm
feel
$20
horrible.
richer than when I started.
Yeah!
That's more than that cost.
You've made a profit today, sir. Nicely done. I will cherish this forever, as well as our conversation. Thank you so much. Adam Savage, everybody. Sit there uncomfortably while I wrap up.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Adam, like all of our previous 98 guests before him, will sit there uncomfortably while I wrap things up for the folks at home and around the world at large. What a spectacular outing this has been. Far less troubleshooting along the way and problem solving as I had anticipated. I want to thank, of course, the crew that worked behind the scenes, Jeff up there in the sound booth, and our sound man here today. Tell me your name again, I'm sorry? Mike, thank you again, Mike, very much for helping out. And I want to bring out the remaining members of our crew who really, other than the crew gag each week, aren't seen behind the scenes as they work outside the studio. First, let's bring up J-Mac. Where's J-Mac? All right, you bastard. There he is, working from the back.
Outside smoking.
Yeah, we caught him in between cigarettes. Jason McIntyre, everybody. Bring up J-Mac. Take a bow. Come on up. Josh Negrin, stand over here. Come on, you guys. Center stage now. Come on. Can we cut Emily and let Emily come up while Mike, somebody has to run the TriCaster. Emily Goodwin, who runs sound and one of our producers. Mike Rotman, our director. Have we left no one at the helm? Yeah. And Jamie and Sam, of course, as Emily continues running the show from the TriCaster. And everyone else who worked here behind the scenes at Cobb's and at Sketchfest to make this possible. Thank you very much. And as always, until next time, get out of my face.
He's all of the rainbows, but none of the rain. He's dry, but he's an alcoholic. He's hosting this train wreck again and again, and he wears a hat. He's